Imagine finding a simple $1 coin in your pocket, but it's worth over $100,000. This tiny minting mistake created one of Australia's most valuable modern coins. Stay tuned, because you might have one hiding right now. First up, the 1981 Australian 20 cent was struck on a Canadian Planchet. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary 20-cent coin, but beneath its surface lies an international minting error that slipped through the cracks. An error so strange, so rare, that even experienced collectors might never see one in their lifetime. Yet, for those lucky enough to find one, it can be worth thousands of dollars. To understand how this coin came to exist, we need to travel back to 1981, a year that seemed quite routine for the Royal Australian Mint. In 1981, Australia was producing millions of coins for circulation. The 20-cent coin, first introduced in 1966, during the decimalisation of Australia's currency, had become one of the country's most commonly used coins. It featured the famous design by Stuart Devlin, a platypus swimming through water, a design that became instantly recognizable across the nation. Under normal circumstances, these coins were struck on copper-nickel planchets, 75% copper and 25% nickel, with a weight of exactly 1131 grams. But in 1981, the Royal Australian Mint was not working alone. Due to high production demands that year, Australia contracted some of its coin production to overseas mints, including the Royal Canadian Mint. This was a standard practice at the time, done to meet the increasing need for circulating coins. But somewhere during that partnership, something highly unusual happened. At the Royal Canadian Mint, a small number of Canadian planchets, meant for Canadian 25-cent coin, somehow found their way into the presses that were producing Australian 20-cent coins. The result was a hybrid, an Australian 20-cent coin struck not on Australian copper-nickel planchets, but on Canadian nickel planchets. Now let's dive into the technical details of why this is so significant. The standard Australian 20-cent planchet weighs 1131 grams, but Canadian 25-cent planchets in 1981 were much lighter, about 4.4 grams, and were made entirely of nickel rather than copper-nickel. This difference in weight and metal composition means the error coins not only feel different, but also sound different, look different under magnification, and even show differences in strike quality. Because nickel is harder than copper-nickel, the design details on the error coins often appear weaker. The legends may be faint, the edges may look softer, and the rims can appear slightly misaligned or thinner due to the incorrect metal's striking characteristics. But these are not the kind of differences you would notice in your pocket change. To the average person, these coins passed through hands for years unnoticed. People spent them, received them as change, and dropped them into coin jars without ever suspecting they were holding a rare and valuable error coin. It wasn't until years later that collectors began to notice some 1981 20-cent coins were turning up that didn't quite match the others. They were lighter, they sounded different when dropped, and under close inspection, they showed weakly struck designs, classic signs of an incorrect planchet error. So how many of these error coins exist? The truth is, we still don't know. Because this was not an intentional issue, no official mintage figure exists for these error coins. They simply slipped into circulation, along with the millions of regular coins produced that year. Some estimates suggest that only a few dozen genuine examples have been discovered and authenticated to date. Others believe there may still be undiscovered examples sitting quietly in private collections or coin jars, waiting to be found. Now let's talk about value, because this is where things get truly exciting. The 1981 20-cent Canada Planchet error is one of Australia's most valuable modern error coins. Circulated examples, coins that have been used but still retain their key identifying features, have sold for $2,000 to $5,000 AUD, depending on condition. But for higher-grade examples, coins that remain in near mint or uncirculated condition, prices can soar even higher, than 1,000 AUD or more at auction, depending on market demand and collector interest at the time. These prices reflect not just the rarity of the coin, but also its fascinating backstory. The unintentional collaboration between two national mints and a mistake that slipped through the sophisticated controls of modern minting technology. But let's take a moment to understand why error coins like this are so desirable in the first place. In coin collecting, rarity is king. The fewer examples that exist, the more valuable the coin becomes. But rarity alone is not always enough. The story behind the coin also plays a major role. And in this case, the 1981 20-cent Canadian Planchet error combines both elements beautifully, extreme rarity, and a highly unusual origin story. For collectors, finding one of these coins is like winning the lottery. It's a treasure hunt that's still ongoing today. Some collectors regularly weigh every 1981 20-cent piece they come across, hoping to discover one that tips the scale closer to 4.4 grams, the telltale sign of a Canadian Planchet. So how can you check if you have one? Start with a simple digital scale that measures to 2 decimal places. Weigh any 1981 20-cent coins you have. If any of them weigh significantly less than 11.31 grams, especially around 4.4 grams, you may have stumbled upon a major error coin. Next, examine the strike quality. Look for weaker design details, especially on Queen Elizabeth II's portrait and on the platypus. Check the rim for thinness or weakness, and listen to the coin's sound when gently dropped on a hard surface. Nickel coins often produce a slightly higher pitched ring than copper nickel coins. If you suspect you have found one, the next step is authentication. Reputable third-party grading services, like PCGS and NGC, have certified genuine examples of this error coin. Submitting your coin to a professional grader will provide you with both authentication and an official grade, which greatly enhances the coin's value in the market. Now, let's reflect on how this coin fits into the larger world of Australian error coins. While Australia has produced a number of famous error coins, such as the 2001 $1 Mule, the 1966 20-cent Wavy Baseline, and the 2001 Federation Upset 50 cent, the 1981 Canadian Planchet, 20 cent stands out because of its international element. It's not just a simple double strike or off-center error. It's a coin that accidentally crossed national boundaries, a blend of Australian design and Canadian materials, united through human oversight. Even today, nearly 45 years later, the mystery remains. How many were made? How many survived? Will more be discovered? These questions continue to fuel the passion of collectors and keep the hunt alive. For many collectors, this is not just a hobby, it's a pursuit of history. Each coin tells a story, and the 1981 20-cent Canadian Planchet error tells one of the most intriguing stories in Australian numismatics. So whether you're a seasoned collector or just beginning your numismatic journey, remember this: the next time you hold a 1981 20-cent coin in your hand, it might be worth taking a closer look. You never know. You could be holding a coin worth thousands of dollars, born from a rare minting mistake that connects 2 nations in a single, extraordinary piece of metal. Next up, the 2010 Australian 50-cent upset rotation error, a coin that at first glance looks like any other 50-cent piece, but hides a rare and valuable minting mistake that has captivated collectors for years. Let's first understand what this error actually is. The upset rotation error, sometimes simply called a rotated die error, occurs during the striking process of a coin. Normally, when a coin is struck, both the obverse and reverse dies are carefully aligned, so that the design on each side faces exactly the correct orientation relative to the other. For Australian coins, this means when you hold the coin with the Queen's portrait upright and flip it horizontally, the reverse design, in the case of the 50-cent coin, the Australian coat of arms, should also appear upright. This perfect alignment is known as coin alignment, and it's one of the strictest quality standards mints maintain. But on a very small number of 2010 Australian 50-cent coins, something went wrong. During production, one of the dies, either the obverse or reverse, became improperly installed or loosened slightly in the press, causing the designs to be misaligned when the coin was struck. This resulted in coins where, when you flip them over, the reverse design does not line up correctly with the obverse. Instead, it appears at various degrees of rotation, often at 30, 45, 90, or even a full 180 degrees, completely upside down. For most people, this subtle error goes unnoticed. After all, who carefully flips every coin they handle to check alignment? But for numismatists, collectors who study coins in detail, this kind of error is not only rare but highly desirable. Now let's dive deeper into the specific case of the 2010 Australian 50-cent coin. The Australian 50-cent coin is one of the most unique circulating coins in the world, not just because of its size, but because of its dodecagonal, 12-sided shape. First introduced in 1969, the 50-cent coin features the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse and the Commonwealth coat of arms on the reverse. A design filled with intricate detail, including the kangaroo and emu supporters, the shield, and the symbolic flora. By 2010, millions of 50-cent coins had been struck, with the mint maintaining its usual high standards of production. Yet somehow, a small number of upset rotation errors slipped through the mint's strict quality controls that year. The exact number of these error coins that exist is still unknown. Since they entered general circulation undetected, most people who received these coins as change probably never realized they were holding a valuable minting mistake. And because many people don't routinely check for die rotation errors, these coins could still be sitting in coin jars, wallets, or bank tills all across Australia. What makes these coins so fascinating is not just their rarity, but the range of rotation angles they exhibit. Some collectors have reported rotations of around 30 degrees. Others have discovered coins rotated at dramatic angles of 90, 120, or even 180 degrees, where the coat of arms is completely upside down when the Queen's portrait is facing upright. The more severe the rotation generally, the more desirable the coin becomes to collectors, though any degree of upset rotation is sought after due to its overall scarcity. Now let's talk about why these errors happen in the first place. In modern mints, dies are mounted in heavy, high-speed presses that strike thousands of coins per hour. If a die is installed incorrectly, slightly loose, or shifts during production, it can begin producing coins with increasing degrees of rotation. In most cases, such problems are detected quickly during routine quality control checks, and affected coins are pulled from production and destroyed. But every so often, a small batch, or even just a few individual coins, escape into circulation before the issue is caught. That's exactly what seems to have happened with the 2010 50-cent upset rotation error. Because the mint does not publicly release specific data on production errors, we may never know the full extent of the problem or how many coins were involved. What we do know is that confirmed examples remain extremely scarce. Now let's get into the value. One of the most exciting parts for collectors, the 2010 50-cent upset rotation error has become one of the more valuable modern Australian error coins. In circulated condition, depending on the degree of rotation and overall wear, these coins can sell for anywhere from 300 AUD to $800 AUD. However, for coins that are in near mint or uncirculated condition, prices can easily exceed $1,000 AUD, and some examples have sold for even more at auction, especially when the rotation is dramatic, such as full 180-degree rotations. The value of these coins also depends on authentication. Third-party grading services like PCGS NGC and Australia's own PCGS Australia division have certified many of these coins. Coins that are authenticated and graded tend to sell for significantly higher prices, as buyers can be certain they are purchasing a genuine mint error. For many collectors, the thrill isn't just in owning these coins, but in the hunt for them. Every time someone flips over a 2010 50-cent coin and checks the alignment, there's a chance, however slim, that they might discover one of these valuable errors hiding in plain sight. But even beyond the financial value, these coins serve as reminders of the human element in modern minting. Despite the incredible automation and technology involved in producing coins today, small mistakes still manage to slip through. And those mistakes become treasures for collectors. It's worth noting that upset rotation errors have occurred on other Australian denominations and years as well. But the 2010 50-cent version remains one of the more recognized and desirable examples among error collectors due to its relative scarcity and the high-profile interest it has gained in recent years. So how can you check your own 50-cent coins for this error? The process is simple but requires careful attention. First, hold the coin with the Queen's portrait facing upright. Now flip the coin horizontally, not vertically, so you're rotating it along the horizontal axis. If the reverse design, the coat of arms, is perfectly upright, then your coin is properly aligned. But if you see that the reverse design is tilted or completely upside down, you may have found an upset rotation error. Even a slight rotation can make a coin valuable, though the more dramatic the rotation, the rarer and more valuable it becomes. If you believe you've discovered one, it's always best to have the coin authenticated by a professional grading service. Now let's take a brief moment to place this error coin into the bigger picture of Australian error coins. Australia has produced some truly legendary minting errors over the years. There's the famous 2000 $1 Mule Coin, with its doubled rim, caused by a mismatched obverse die from a 10-cent coin. There's the 1966 Wavy Baseline 20-cent, a rare variety that features a distinctive curve on the bottom of the numeral. 2. And of course, There's the 1981 20-cent Canadian Planchet error, which we've discussed previously. What makes the 2010 50-cent upset rotation error unique is that it's a pure mechanical failure, a simple, tiny misalignment at the mint that created a coin both ordinary and extraordinary at the same time. For collectors, these kinds of errors capture the magic of coin collecting, the idea that in every handful of spare change, in every jar of forgotten coins, there could be a rare and valuable discovery waiting to be found. Next up, 2001 Federation 50-cent upset error. In the precise, highly controlled world of modern minting, every coin produced is supposed to be perfect, identical in weight, design, and alignment. But every so often something goes wrong. A tiny flaw creeps into the process, and that flaw creates a coin that becomes highly sought after by collectors around the world. Today we're about to dive into one such fascinating Australian minting error, the 2001 Federation 50-cent upset error, a coin that looks completely ordinary at first glance, but holds a hidden minting mistake that can transform a simple piece of change into a valuable numismatic treasure. Let's first set the stage. The year is 2001. Australia is celebrating the centenary of Federation. 100 years since the 6 colonies came together to form the Commonwealth of Australia. In 1901, to commemorate this historic milestone, the Royal Australian Mint released a special series of circulating coins, one of which was the Federation 50-cent coin. Unlike the regular 50-cent coin that typically features the Australian coat of arms on the reverse, the 2001 Federation series showcased unique designs representing each of Australia's states and territories. This made the series especially popular among collectors, who sought to collect the full set of designs. But among these special coins, something unusual occurred, something that slipped past the Mint's strict quality controls. A small number of 2001 Federation 50-cent coins were struck with what is known as an upset rotation error. To understand this error, we first need to understand how coins are normally struck. In the minting process, 2 dies strike each side of the coin simultaneously, one for the obverse, front, and one for the reverse, back. The dies are carefully aligned so that when you flip a coin horizontally, both sides remain upright. In Australia, this is known as coin alignment. However, with the Federation upset error, that alignment was lost. For these error coins, the reverse die was accidentally rotated during installation or became loose during production, resulting in coins where the obverse and reverse designs are no longer correctly aligned. When you flip these coins, the reverse image appears rotated at various angles, sometimes just a few degrees, sometimes dramatically, with some examples rotated up to 180 degrees. This type of error is incredibly rare because modern minting processes are designed to prevent exactly this kind of mistake. The fact that even a small batch of these error coins made it through to circulation makes them highly valuable in the eyes of collectors. Now let's dive into the specific mechanics of how such an error can occur. Inside modern coining presses, dies are mounted with precision tooling that locks them into place. Each press strikes thousands of coins per hour. However, if one of the dies is improperly installed or shifts during operation due to a mechanical failure, misalignment can occur. As the die rotates away from its intended position, each coin struck afterward will feature a degree of rotation between its obverse and reverse. The longer the press continues operating before the problem is discovered, the more error coins are produced. In the case of the 2001 Federation 50-cent upset error, only a limited number of such coins appear to have made it into circulation, suggesting that the error was caught relatively quickly. However, the exact number of error coins remains unknown, adding to their mystery and appeal. The Federation series itself was struck in large numbers, but it is estimated that only a very small fraction of these coins contain upset rotation errors, possibly just a few hundred examples across all state designs combined. This makes any Federation upset error extremely scarce. But what makes the 2001 Federation 50-cent upset error even more fascinating is that it has been discovered on multiple state designs, not just one. Collectors have found upset rotation examples across various Federation designs such as South Australia, Victoria, Western Australia, and others, which suggests that the upset error may have occurred at multiple stages of production across different press runs. Let's now turn our attention to the value of these coins, one of the most exciting aspects for collectors. Because of their extreme scarcity, The 2001 Federation 50-cent upset rotation. Errors command significant premiums in the marketplace. In circulated condition, depending on the degree of rotation and which state design is involved, prices typically range from $300 to $600 AUD. However, examples that exhibit more dramatic rotations, such as 90 degrees or 180 degrees, can sell for $1,000 AUD or more. For coins in uncirculated condition, or those graded and authenticated by major grading services such as PCGS or NGC, prices can climb even higher, with certain state designs fetching or more at auction depending on demand. One factor that heavily influences the price is the degree of rotation. Mild rotations of 10 to 20 degrees, while still collectible, are generally less valuable than dramatic rotations of 90 or 180 degrees. Collector's prize. The most severe misalignments because they represent the clearest examples of the upset rotation error. Authentication plays a critical role when it comes to upset rotation errors, because these coins are not as easy to visually identify as other types of errors, such as off-center strikes or broad strikes. Third-party authentication provides collectors with confidence that they are purchasing a genuine error. Certified coins are often slabbed with detailed rotation descriptions, such as 50-cent 2001 Federation 90-Stern rotation error, providing buyers with important information about the specific degree of upset. For many collectors, part of the thrill is in the hunt, searching through change, coin rolls, or family collections in hopes of discovering one of these elusive coins. Upset rotation errors can easily go unnoticed by casual handlers because they require flipping the coin and closely observing its orientation. It's not the kind of error that jumps out at first glance, which means that some of these coins could still be sitting quietly in people's coin jars, completely undiscovered. Now let's briefly place this error into the broader landscape of Australian minting errors. Australia has a rich history of producing highly collectible minting mistakes, from the famous 2000 $1 Mule Coin with its doubled rim, to the 1966 Wavy Baseline 20 cent, and the 1981 20 cent struck on a Canadian Planchet. Each of these errors tells its own unique story about how even the most tightly controlled minting processes can still occasionally falter. What sets the 2001 Federation 50-cent upset error apart is that it occurred during a highly commemorative and widely collected issue, the Centenary of Federation series. This gives the error additional appeal. As collectors of Federation, coins often seek these upset rotations to complete or upgrade their collections. So how can you check if you have one of these rare coins? The process is simple but requires careful attention. First, hold the coin with the Queen's portrait facing upright. Next, flip the coin horizontally and not vertically. Observe whether the reverse design, the state's coat of arms or symbol, appears perfectly upright. If the reverse design is rotated, even slightly, you may have discovered an upset rotation error. Collectors often use a rotation gauge or degree wheel to measure the precise degree of upset, which can help determine the rarity and value of the coin. If you believe you have found an upset rotation error, consider submitting the coin to a professional grading service for authentication. Certified coins are far more desirable in the marketplace and provide an official record of both the error and the coin's condition. In summary, the 2001 Federation 50-cent upset rotation error represents one of Australia's most fascinating modern coin mistakes, a unique intersection of historical celebration and mechanical imperfection. It is a reminder that even with advanced technology and strict quality control, rare minting errors can still occur, and when they do, they create opportunities for collectors to own a piece of numismatic history. Next up, the 1966 20 cent Wavy Baseline Error. To truly appreciate this coin, we need to travel back in time to 1966, year of monumental change for Australia. On the 14th of February 1966, Australia officially transitioned from the old imperial pounds, shillings, and pence system to decimal currency, adopting dollars and cents for the very first time. This was one of the largest and most complex currency changes in the nation's history. It required massive public education campaigns, redesigned currency notes, and the production of brand new coins to populate the economy. The 20-cent coin was part of this first generation of decimal coinage, and it featured the now iconic platypus design created by the renowned artist Stuart Devlin. Millions upon millions of these new 20-cent coins were struck in 1966 at multiple locations, including the Royal Australian Mint in Canberra and to support the huge demand at the Royal Mint branch in London. This mass production effort was a monumental logistical task, and it was during this chaotic period that one of Australia's most famous coin errors was born, the Wavy Baseline Error. At first glance, both coins look almost identical, but under closer inspection, one tiny but significant difference becomes apparent sitting on the top of the numeral, 2 on the reverse side of the coin. On a standard 1966 20-cent coin, the horizontal baseline on the 2 is perfectly straight, but on the error variety, that baseline is noticeably wavy, curving up and down in a gentle arc, like a tiny ripple of water frozen in metal. The origin of this error remains something of a mystery, but experts believe that it most likely occurred due to die damage or variation in the master hub during the early stages of minting at the London branch of the Royal Mint. Unlike many coin errors that result from striking misalignments, off-center strikes, or Planchet flaws, the wavy baseline is a die variety, meaning it was created right at the die production stage and repeated consistently on every coin struck from that faulty die. What makes this even more fascinating is that the wavy baseline 20-cent coin was never intended to be an error at all, but rather a design anomaly that was produced repeatedly for a brief time before being corrected. This is why it's often referred to as a die variety rather than a classic mint error. It is believed that the wavy baseline variety originated solely from dies used at the London Mint in 1966. That means any 1966 20-cent coin with the wavy baseline error most likely originated from the UK minting facility and was shipped back to Australia as part of the initial circulation release. The Royal Mint London was responsible for producing many millions of coins to help the Australian government meet the demands of decimalisation, and within that production batch, a small number of these defective dies made it into service, producing coins that were nearly identical to the regular issues, except for that single wavy detail. Now let's talk about rarity, one of the most important words in numismatics. While millions of 20-cent coins were produced in 1966, only a very small fraction of those contain the wavy baseline variety. Experts estimate that fewer than 10,000 examples exist, and perhaps far fewer when you account for coins lost, damaged, or melted over the decades. This incredibly small population is why the wavy baseline 20-cent has become one of Australia's most famous and desirable modern coins. But how exactly can you tell if you have one? There is only one place you need to look, and that's the top of the 2 on the reverse of the coin. On a regular 1966 20-cent, the top of the 2 is completely flat. On a wavy baseline error, you will see a clear, smooth undulation, a soft wave that rises and falls across the top stroke of the 2. Because this feature is small and subtle, many people overlook it entirely, which means some wavy baseline coins are likely still sitting in coin jars, collections, or even circulation today, waiting to be discovered. Now let's talk about value. This is where the wavy baseline 20-cent becomes truly exciting for collectors. In circulated condition, examples typically sell for $300 to $600 AUD, depending on wear and eye appeal. Even coins with moderate wear are still highly sought after due to their rarity. For higher grade examples, coins that have seen little circulation and retain much of their original mint luster, prices rise dramatically. Uncirculated specimens, graded by third-party services such as PCGS or NGC, can easily command $2,000 to $4,000 AUD or more at auction. And at the very top tier, for coins graded in near-perfect condition, prices can exceed $10,000 AUD, making the wavy baseline 20-cent one of the most valuable Australian decimal coins ever produced. What's important to remember is that condition is king in coin collecting. The better preserved your wavy baseline coin, the more valuable it becomes. Many examples have minor nicks, bag marks, or wear from circulation, which slightly reduce their value. A pristine example, however, becomes a true investment-grade piece. One of the reasons why collectors remain obsessed with this variety is because it combines everything that makes coin collecting exciting. A historic date, 1966, the birth of Australia's decimal currency. A subtle design flaw, requiring sharp eyes to detect. Extreme rarity, with very few surviving examples. High value, turning pocket change into thousands of dollars. The wavy baseline error has also inspired countless Australians to start searching their old coins, launching new generations into the world of numismatics. Coin roll hunting, flea market browsing, and family coin jar inspections have all led to lucky discoveries. While many numismatic errors involve striking issues, Planchet flaws or dramatic visual mistakes, the wavy baseline stands apart because of its quiet subtlety. Without close examination, it's nearly invisible, and that only adds to the thrill for collectors. Now let's briefly compare the wavy baseline to some of Australia's other famous coin errors and varieties. The 2000 Wonder Mule Coin, famous for its doubled rim caused by mismatched dies. The 2010 Upset Rotation 50 cent, a rotated die error, creating major misalignment. The 1981 Canadian Planchet 20-cent error, struck on foreign metal stock. And of course, the 2001 Federation 50-cent Upset Rotation error, another highly desirable modern variety. Each of these coins tells a story, not just about minting errors, but about human history, craftsmanship, and the lasting power of collecting. But among these famous coins, the 1966 Wavy Baseline 20 cent holds a very special place because it represents the very first year of Australia's decimal coinage. A year of transformation, excitement, and in this case, imperfection. For anyone watching this who may be curious if they own one of these valuable coins, remember, grab a good magnifying glass or loupe. Look carefully at that top stroke of the 2 on your 1966 20 cent coin. A tiny wave could mean you're holding one of Australia's rarest decimal treasures. If you believe you've found one, professional authentication is essential. Submitting your coin to PCGS NGC or another trusted grading service will not only certify the coin's authenticity, but significantly increase its resale value. The Wavy Baseline 20 cent reminds us that in the world of numismatics, the difference between ordinary and extraordinary can be measured in fractions of a millimeter, and that even after decades, these little treasures continue to surface in the most unexpected places. Next up, the 2000 War Mule Coin, the double rim error. The year was 2000. Australia was on the world stage, hosting the Sydney Olympics. It was a time of national pride, celebration, and modernization. But while the world's attention was on the athletes, something unusual was happening quietly behind the scenes. Inside the Royal Australian Mint, as part of the regular minting operations, millions of Australian $1 coins were being produced for circulation. But during this period, something highly unusual happened. At the heart of every coin is its die pair, 2 carefully crafted pieces of metal that strike both sides of the blank coin planchet, creating the obverse, front, and reverse back designs. In 2000, the Royal Australian Mint mistakenly paired mismatched dies during production. The obverse die, the front side, featuring Queen Elizabeth II, was intended for a 10-cent coin. The reverse die, featuring the iconic mob of kangaroos, was from the regular $1 coin die. Now here's where the problem arose. The 10-cent coin die was slightly smaller in diameter than the die used for the $1 coin. But when that 10-cent obverse die was accidentally fitted into a press with a $1 reverse die, the result was something extraordinary. Every time the die struck a blank planchet intended for a $1 coin, the smaller obverse die forced metal up around its edges, creating an unusually thick, raised border around the entire face of the coin. This is what collectors now call the double rim effect, a thicker than normal, clearly visible raised edge that encircles both sides of the coin. This was not a simple minor variation. This was a full-fledged mule error, a term in numismatics, referring to a coin struck with mismatched dies not intended to be paired together. In fact, the 2000 War Mule Coin is widely considered one of the most significant Australian mule errors ever discovered. What makes this error particularly fascinating is how easily it could have gone unnoticed. For the average person receiving change at a shop or supermarket, the coin still appeared to be a normal $1 coin. The kangaroo design was there. Queen Elizabeth II was on the front. The weight was correct, and it still spent as legal tender. But for those with a sharp eye, the double rim stood out. It wasn't until months later that the error began to attract serious attention from the coin collecting community. Soon after, collectors started searching their change, banks, and coin rolls. The Royal Australian Mint acknowledged the mistake but never officially released data on how many were struck. The best estimates today suggest that approximately 6 around to 7,000 mule coins made it into circulation, making it extremely rare in comparison to the millions of regular $1 coins minted that year. Now let's get into why this error is so valuable. First, in rarity. With only a few thousand known examples, the mule coin is exponentially rarer than virtually any other circulating Australian decimal coin. That scarcity creates immediate Demand from both casual collectors and serious investors. Second, visibility. Unlike microscopic die errors that require magnification to identify, the Mule Coin's double rim is instantly recognizable to the naked eye. This makes it more accessible to hobbyists, adding to its popularity. Third, the mystique. Minting errors of this magnitude are exceptionally rare in modern production environments, where precision technology is designed to prevent such mistakes. The very fact that such a clear mule error occurred in the year 2000, during an era of advanced quality control, only adds to its legendary status. Let's now talk about value, the part that makes collectors' hearts race. In circulated condition, where the coin shows signs of daily use, a $2001 Mule Coin typically sells for 400 to 1,000 AUD, depending on wear. In high-grade circulated condition, with minimal wear and strong details, prices can climb to $2,000 AUD or more. In uncirculated condition, coins that show little or no signs of handling, prices skyrocket to $4,000, $5,000, or even $7,000 AUD. The absolute finest known examples, professionally graded at MS66 or MS67, by services such as PCGS or NGC, have sold at auction for over $10,000 AUD. The Mule Coin's popularity extends far beyond Australia as well. International collectors view it as one of the great modern minting mistakes, and graded examples are frequently sought after by numismatists worldwide. What's even more thrilling for everyday Australians is that many of these Mule Coins were originally found in circulation, literally in people's wallets, purses and spare change jars. For years after its discovery, hobbyists visited banks, withdrawing bags of $1 coins in hopes of finding a mule. Some succeeded. Today, while most have likely been pulled from circulation, there's always the possibility that a few are still out there, waiting to surprise someone who checks their change carefully. Let's talk for a moment about how to identify a Mule Coin if you're lucky enough to come across one. First, check the year 2000. Next, closely examine the rim. Is the raised edge unusually thick compared to a normal $1 coin? The double rim is most noticeable around Queen Elizabeth II's portrait. If it appears almost doubled or significantly thicker than usual, you may have a mule. Finally, check the diameter. The Mule Coin's slightly different die pairing gives it a slightly smaller inner design, with more space between the Queen's portrait and the edge of the coin compared to normal $1 coins. If you think you've found one, professional grading and authentication are strongly recommended. Certified examples not only sell for higher prices, but offer assurance to buyers that your coin is genuine. The Mule Coin also serves as a cautionary tale about the complexity of modern minting operations. Despite extensive automation, modern mints still rely on human oversight. A simple mix-up and perhaps during a busy production shift or a maintenance changeover can result in two dies of different sizes being accidentally paired together. Once installed in the press, thousands of coins can be struck before the mistake is noticed. The fact that the Royal Australian Mint was producing millions of coins under tight deadlines to meet demand may have contributed to the conditions that allowed this mule to occur. Even today, no one knows exactly how many presses were involved or how many dies were affected, adding an element of mystery to the Mule Coin's origin. When we look at the 2001 Mule Coin in the broader context of Australian numismatic history, it stands alongside some of Australia's most famous errors and varieties: the 1966 Wavy Baseline 20 cent, the 1981 Canadian Planchet 20 cent, the 2001 Federation Upset 50 cent, and the 2010 Upset Rotation 50 cent. But among these, the Mule Coin holds a particularly special place because of its clear, easily identifiable error and the thrilling treasure hunt culture it sparked. For many collectors, discovering a Mule Coin represents the ultimate reward, the moment when skill, patience, and a bit of luck all come together. It's a reminder that even in the modern era, extraordinary finds are still possible, often hiding right in plain sight. In summary, the $2001 Mule Coin is not just a minting error, it's a symbol of why people fall in love with coin collecting. The possibility that a simple coin, casually handed over in change, might actually be worth thousands of dollars adds a sense of excitement and adventure to every transaction. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the legendary $2001 Mule Coin, one of Australia's greatest modern coin mysteries. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss more fascinating stories from the incredible world of rare coins, hidden errors, and numismatic treasures.